What's up, everybody? Back here for episode 40 of the Pitside podcast, here with my friend Roger Craig. We've got a great episode for you this week. We've got Cody Earley from the Pro Late Model Dirt Series, and we'll check in with Connor Ross again for another edition of Connor's Corner. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Pitside podcast, where we discuss the latest news and developments in the Coast to Coast Racing League, as well as other racing news inside and out of iRacing. Here's your host, the A-Let Outlaw, Preston Cranmer, and Roger, the Bass Man, Craig.
So we're back, and I'm here, like I said before, but I'm here with a little bit shaggier than usual Roger Craig. It's been a while, I would say.
So there's tomorrow is Wednesday. We're recording this on Tuesday. Tomorrow, two big things happening tomorrow. One is Hometown Heroes, of course, and we got the big funny race and the memorial race and stuff. But the other one is I'm getting my hair cut. Yay! So it's kind of, I was saying to you earlier before we started recording, like, I have no idea in the 60s and 70s how I put up with this shit. Like it's just it's just driving me nuts. It's maybe not too bad in the front, but in the back, it's just driving me nuts. It gets in my eyes. And so tomorrow's haircut day. So yeah.
So I used to have long hair too. Surprise! Now I think there's been a couple of pictures that got drudged up in our team chat at one point, possibly. But so I was in the AFJ ROTC in high school, right? It was Air Force ROTC basically,
okay,
and
yeah.
And so we had to keep it high and tight, just like we're actually in the military. And so my senior year, both of they were teachers, right? But they're commanding officers. They were in the Air Force, ran the program. They retired. And so two new gentlemen came in, and I decided that I didn't want to, go through the regime change, I guess. And so I quit the ROTC, and so I took senior year off, and I figured, well, I don't have to cut my hair anymore. So by the end of senior year, I was pretty, I would say, ridiculous looking.
We'll have to see some of those pictures, because I know just recently, happy anniversary, by the way. But
Thank you.
Part of that in the Facebook post, there's a much younger version of you in one of those photos. But how old were you and Penny? Was that when you were first engaged or you first met?
If it was the picture in the top left of that
Yes.
collage, that was actually on our honeymoon. It would have been 7 years ago.
Okay, but you went together for 9 years. So
Prior.
there's some priceless pictures.
There are
back
some
in the day.
pictures.
Yeah.
There are some pictures. So yeah, we started dating in 10th grade. Dated for, I guess it was about 9 years. That's what Penny Lee said. So that's what we're going with.
Absolutely.
And then we got married in 2014. So yeah, we've been together for a long time.
Well, yeah, because I remember asking you one time. You said you met her in grade 2 or something, but you were a player back in those days. And,
it was third grade.
Nothing permanent. Yeah,
it was
third grade. Yeah.
It was third grade, but yeah, she was my girlfriend for a period of time there. But I moved on for a little bit. But you come back to where you belong.
So grade 3, you were a player.
That's basically it. I had a few girlfriends back then.
Yeah. So hey, never mind our haircuts and all that stuff. We got an amazing guest coming on. I'm really excited to get to talk to him and actually meet him. We've chatted back and forth, but looking forward to this.
Yeah. So yeah, Cody Earley. Again, I believe that he runs the Pro Late Model Dirt Series. We've been doing pretty good on that here, but we were botching that before we started. But
yeah, we were.
Yeah, he runs that, and obviously, if you guys are following along, last week we had our Toilet Bowl 100, and this Pro. I keep wanting to call them Super Dirt Late Models. Pro Dirt Late Model Series joined us for that. So we had a handful of their guys and they were all great. That was awesome. So yeah, let's talk to Cody now, and we'll come back and we'll shoot the stuff a little bit. Almost slipped. Shoot the stuff a little bit before we talk to Connor.
Yeah, for sure. We got lots to talk about. So lots of stuff happening.
Yep, sounds good.
And we're excited this week to have somebody we've been looking forward. Cody Earley. We've been working with him for the last few weeks, putting a few things together, and great to finally hook up with you, Cody. Welcome to the show.
Guys, I appreciate y'all having me. Great relationship I feel like we have started off as far as iRacing and series goes. I think between our two series, we're doing something that not a lot of people have tried to do. And in my opinion, I think it's something that more series should try to do. But maybe we're kind of groundbreaking for something pretty interesting.
Well, I had made the comment, maybe to Preston or somebody about that. I think the great thing about it was when we were working, putting the stuff together, is there's no egos in the room. So
Right.
there's nothing, we're working on a cooperative, interleague deal, and without it being overly competitive, but not, I don't know what the word would be, but it's sitting back here.
They
But
call
anyways,
that synergy in the biz.
Yeah. It's without being confrontational. I
There
guess
you
that's
go.
the word I'm looking for. And I think the event we had last week, the Toilet Bowl 100, where Andy stepped up with the sponsorship on that, and it was a great event. And I know from our side, there was zero complaints, and looking forward to more stuff down the road.
Yeah, I think we've kind of become mad scientists with something that's going to happen in 2022 that I think both of our series are going to look at and really enjoy, and going to open the door for us to be able to do something pretty cool. And I know from my end, the drivers we had in there, they really appreciated the invitation and the opportunity to race. They get mad at me, I feel like, when I give them an off week. So the opportunity was perfect for me because my guys hate off weeks, but I have to have them just to kind of keep things rode up. But yeah, you mentioned there Andy Piercefield, that what he's done. I know what he's done for us, and I've heard you talk about what he's done for you all. It's just above and beyond, and he's taken something that I know I created a year ago and has really given it, I call it a locomotive steamroll going into what's going to be, I feel like, our biggest year we've had next year in 2022. So I can't thank him enough. And then the fact that he's opened this relationship between us, that it really shows that something like this can be done. And instead of us chomping at each other's throat, bad mouthing each other, I mean, this opens the door to not only help us, it helps you, because it gives drivers, the opportunity to reach out and do a little more.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of like cross-functional stuff where a few of our guys will be looking to get hooked up with your league, and your guys are, well, as long as their I rating is under 2,500, they're welcome to come out every night and race with us. But it's not like we're trying to raid you. It's if we can make guys' weeks better, doing what they enjoy, and it's a win-win for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you, with the I rating, then I'll always have the door open. Just want to say that, because I'll probably never get mine that high. And the fact that I raced into the show in a heat race, you should have heard the guys that I had in the Discord. You'd have thought I won the race just making the show. So that was a blast for me, just being able to race in.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to backtrack a little bit. I think where we've gotten with this, and the reason it went as well as we did, it starts with the drivers in a lot of ways. We had to do the initial planning, but I don't know a lot about how you run your league as far as rules and EOLs and this kind of stuff. But your guys came in and they raced with courtesy and respect, like we demand of our drivers too. And I think that's a big start. If we had had a big crash fest, there'd have been certainly some hurt feelings and everything, but overall, it was a great event, and I think it was a great way to kick it off, too.
I mean, they behaved better in the race with all of us together than most of the time I get on a Wednesday night. I know we have some races coming up there. I'm just kind of like, if we'll just behave like that, man, it should be some pretty good shows.
Sure.
But they did. We had a really good group get in there. I want to say 7 of our 9 guys made it in, which we had talked in the Discord. If we could have got 4 of them in, I'd have been happy. So, but that's the thing. The competition level, that is all I ask of my guys, week in and week out. I don't need superstars. I need guys that want to have fun. I want guys in there that just like racing, and that's something going forward. I know with my series, my focal point is going to be, I want guys that want to have fun. I don't want nobody. A comment was made, we might race for a little money from time to time, but the thing is, we have to wake up the next day and go to work, most of us. So we're not going to do this and get rich. So it's something that we like to focus on. We just like to look for guys that like to compete. And the Toilet Bowl was, I think, from my part, or from my view, it was great competition and pretty cool to see two series that had probably never competed against each other pretty much jail in a 100-lap race, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot can go wrong in 100 laps, and so that was even another, credit to all those drivers. But let's go back a bit. How long have you been in iRacing, and how long have you been running the league?
We started last year in 2020. This is crazy. I got iRacing in February of 2020. A desk, a monitor, and a wheel and pedals, and I had the wheel pretty much buckled down on an old wooden desk. And I got it, set it up like I never got it set up. But by the end of March, I had quite a few friends that had already had it, and it's like, we need a place to race week in and week out. So me being the promoter / race fan that I am, I went straight to work, and I said, well, we'll just run on Wednesday night. So we made a series. I made up a point standings. Next thing you know, we had 20 or 22 guys week in and week out. I started doing a little bit of the announcing stuff that I put on Facebook, and lo and behold, we had people knocking at the door for this year. And to think it started in 2022, and to think of where it possibly could be going, 2020, and think of where it could possibly be going into 2022. I'm just shocked, especially with some of the people that it's been presented in front of. So it's more pressure on us. And I tell my guys week in and week out, I know we're iRacers, but we have got some pretty big eyes from time to time watching. That's why I said our race the other night with you guys may have been one of our best of the year, which, you get that. But to be a new series, I'm pretty pleased where it's went. We've got roughly about 14 guys that moved over from last year. We brought on 12 rookies for this year, and I want to say we've got 5 of them in the top 8 in points. So if that tells you anything about our rookie class, we moved up this year, including one that's leading the points right now. So just something I never imagined would get as serious as it does, but here we go into season 3 coming up, and it's time consuming. So
buddy, just a word of warning. We started out, on a Monday night, 2 races a night. So, and now we're up to like 16 divisions going 7 days a week. So you better be careful, because it gets out. You get out of hand really fast. That's for sure.
It's funny to hear you talk about this, because I can picture it's a very similar conversation just between Roger and I about a year ago, which we were about the same age at that point. And it spirals on you, and it's great, but at times it's like it's just going faster than you can keep up, and we have staff at this point. Nobody's paid, but we have different people that are responsible for different stuff.
God.
Yes, thank God is exactly right.
Yeah.
But it's cool to hear you talk about that, because you're going the same way. I think it starts with you. It just like it started with Roger, and then people jump on board and help you out. And those are the people to cling to, and I think it's also kind of the step we're at now, where we've merged paths, and I don't know that we really know where that's going to lead entirely. There's a lot of cool opportunities out there.
The cool thing about that is you made a comment that I was thinking about earlier. Don't know where it's going to lead, but I'm excited to see where it could go for the possibilities. I know we've actually got something in the works for next year that we haven't released yet. I know my guys are all like, well, what are we doing? What's going on next year? As soon as I told them it involves points, then they really got the deer in the headlight look. Oh, what do you got going on? So, and that's with my series. I love the anticipation. People say that I do too many promos, I do too many teases. I done told them I'm going to give them maybe the toughest, but probably the most entertaining schedule that I've ever given them next year. and they all know that 27 races is coming up next year, and they know there's a 3-day Winter Nationals somewhere on the schedule, but that's all they know. So they were begging for something that was more than 2 days, and I said, well, I'm not going to race 5 nights a week, the same series with the same guys, because we'll all get mad, not want to race against each other anymore. So I told them I'd give them a 3-day deal, and that's something we're going to do next year. So
I think, and something I got to talk about, because it's kind of funny. We've been working towards, doing a few cooperative efforts down the road. And, I'm not sure if Preston was part of these conversations, but Cody's saying, like, what are you guys doing, like, June 27th, 2022? And we're still adjusting our schedule this season, and we have, no idea what's going to happen in the fall. And you're planning out, so kudos to you, buddy. You got it all together. But for sure, the Toilet Bowl 100, we will make sure each season that we'll hit one of your off nights, so that we can do that same thing, because I think we've got something really good there just to start with. So it's been it's been really, really interesting, that's for sure.
And I think as far as drivers goes, just from what I took the other night, I think as far as driver's perspective, I think I may have a few more younger guys than you have, but we look for the same similarities in drivers. And I mentioned that a little earlier. Somebody that wants to get on, somebody that likes racing, wants to compete, but still, when the race is over and the checkered flag flies, they go to work the next day. They have lives that do not revolve around what happens on that racetrack. And I've dealt with, and I'm sure you all have went this way too. I've dealt with guys that you would think they were racing for $100,000 in a 30-lap race, and I like to make it look like you're going to win 100,000, but I promise you're not going to get rich running in our series. That's for sure. So
no.
I just want to point out that Roger's retired, so he wouldn't be eligible. So tell us a little bit about your racing life outside of iRacing.
Well, to be honest with you, I have more recently became blessed as far as on the announcing side of things. We have a track here, I would say about 20 minutes away from me, Volunteer Speedway, which is in Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Unique place. I know most people have heard about Bristol Motor Speedway, but we have a dirt track that's banked steeper than Bristol is. And to talk about it and to see pictures of it, Tony Stewart last year made the comment, said this place, you see videos and you see pictures, it does not do it justice. And to see a late model whip around that place with 32 degrees of banking is just something that's insane. And my love for racing really started there. My grandfather took me there as a kid. I think I begged him every Saturday night since I was about 6 years old to take me there. And I really, to be honest with you, when it comes to announcing, they had an older announcer there that I would catch myself during the night just simply listening to the speakers. I wouldn't even be watching the race. I would just be listening. Probably annoyed my mother and my stepdad to death with a karaoke machine, muting the TV, old NASCAR races. I mean, I've got cassette tapes galore of me talking, just simply talking, announcing races and stuff like that. And as time went on, I said, this is something I think I could do. I had a decent amount of sports knowledge, so I decided to pursue it. Came out of high school, played football in high school, came out of high school the very next year. I was the PA guy for the football team. That opened the door with the local radio station here in town. The year after that, I got invited to come do play-by-play. Did that for a few years and still do the radio side of things now. But as far as racing goes, I have done some one-off events, as I like to call it. I've been invited to call some stuff, and an opportunity opened up the end of last year. A friend of mine used to own a go-kart track. I used to race go-karts. He is the competition director at Volunteer Speedway, Steve Collins, and he reached out to me. He said, hey, he said, would you be our announcer? And at the time, I wasn't aware. I was like, the go-kart track? He said, no. He said, I'm competition director at Volunteer Speedway now. And as soon as he said that, I was like, yes. I was like, yes. So that door opened up, and I've been blessed with that opportunity. Grassroots Sports TV is a new streaming service. They picked up the American All-Star Series, Crate Series. I was lucky enough to pick up the broadcast side of things of the races. So I've been doing those all year. And then, you know, the biggest, I actually said this tonight, the biggest opportunity I've ever had in my career will be the Charlotte Dirt Track this weekend, the Carolina Sizzler first annual. I get to call that with a great group of guys. One of my guys that I look up to from PRN, his name's Lenny Baticki. He'll be the pit reporter for me all weekend. And I mean, a super late model race for $20,000 to win at Charlotte. If I would have said a couple of years ago I'd be calling at the dirt track at Charlotte, I'd have probably got laughed at. But I'm on the doorsteps of something that I think's pretty cool. And then all the iRacing guys in my group, they beg for promo videos. They love for me to do the announcer voice. And I'm like, guys, I do this for a living. But they're like, it just changes everything. So sky's the limit with that. I've really put my nose to the grindstone to see where I could actually take the announcing with racing side of things. And that's kind of where we are now. I joke and say I've been announcing probably since I was 8 years old. But then when people say, well, you know, how long have you been announcing dirt races? Like, well, my first actual live dirt race was last November, the Crate Late Model National Championship they had at the Gap. So I'm not even really a year into this thing yet. So
wow.
It's awesome.
Pretty cool opportunity.
So here's something that I think is pretty interesting. Then, so you're the regular track announcer there at Volunteer Speedway. So yes. I'm a big fan of Dylan Westbrook, who runs the ASCS tour, and those guys were there about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that. So I watched that broadcast. I don't know if that was Racing Boys or Flo, but for the late models, that would have been you making the call, and I didn't even realize that, right?
Yep, I was there, and Brian Holbert, of course, announcing for the sprint cars, one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. I'm telling you, being in a press box with him, it gives you a whole new feel of how cool the career really is to announce racing. But yeah,
so he's the guy that reads off all the sponsors, right? Like,
yes,
he is. He just rolls them all off.
Well, I learned some techniques from Brian Holbert. He carries a laptop with him, and I'm the kind of person, if you ever see me in a booth, I have got a stack of papers that's about this thick. And he introduced me to a laptop doing it all, and I was just amazed that he had everything. And I'm still trying to make my laptop look the way he had. But memorization is one of Brian's best things. I mean, he has his laptop, but I mean, the way and as many races as he sees is the way the sponsors lay out. He's spot on, and that's why he's one of the best in the business. I mean, he gets the privilege to do the Chili Bowl year in and year out. And I told him, I said, hey, you know, the Chili Bowl is on my bucket list. And he said, let me know. And I said, listen, if I've got to stand at the door and hold the door open for somebody for me to be able to get in just to see that show, I would gladly do it. But yeah, that night, Flow Racing was there. I think Racing Boys was there as well. They had a co-broadcast, and I think we had Sportsman Late Model, Street Stocks, and Classics that night. So that was my first race of the year. This is crazy. The first race of the year at Volunteer Speedway was in April. It was rained out. That was going to be my debut, my first time behind the mic. It got rained out. The second race they had, I had a previous engagement with the American All-Star Series on Grassroots Sports TV. So technically, my first race at Volunteer Speedway was on Flow Racing with the sprint cars coming to town.
So I heard you at your first official broadcast at Volunteer Speedway, buddy.
This is one of those small world things.
That was the very first time I ever cracked the mic at Volunteer Speedway, and the way the schedule laid out, the next time around that I got to call there was the American All-Stars were there, so it was on Grassroots. And then, of course, as the year goes on, Flow Racing Night in America is there later this year. Dirt Vision's going to be there at the World of Outlaws later this year. So Landon Stallard and Steve Collins, the folks at Volunteer Speedway, I mean, I've been truly blessed. And then when the call came in to come to Charlotte, there's that part of me saying, you know, I'm not ready for this. But then there's that side of me is, you know, take it while you got the chance. And
Yep.
I mean, it's a ride that I think hard work and dedication, that's one thing that I pride myself on. I listen, and people think this is odd, but I go back and I will watch my races, and there's nobody in this world harder on me than me. If I making a mistake, it's fine to make a mistake, but I need to learn from that mistake. I know a lot of people go back and they watch, replays of how they race where they made an error on the track. Well, that's me. Each time a race happens, I go back, I watch it in its entirety, thinking, well, I should have said this here, or what I left out here. But probably the best advice when it comes to announcing, and this is totally off the subject, we had an old announcer for the University of Tennessee here. Of course, me being in the state of Tennessee, his name was John Ward. To me, there is no better announcer ever. If you ever get a chance to look up Tennessee football, look up John Ward. The way he called the game was absolutely amazing. But I got to meet him when I was about 9 or 10. And at that point, already knew, I knew that I wanted to be an announcer. And it's crazy to think at that young of age, I already had that in my mind. But I got to meet him. And I told him, I was very vocal. My mother will tell you that I was the worst person to go to town with because I talked to everybody. But I told him, I want to be an announcer. And the first thing he said to me, he said, well, your delivery is the most important thing. And the second thing, he asked me if I wanted to do play-by-play. And at the time, I was like, yeah, I love the radio aspect, because a TV announcer is one thing, a radio broadcast is another thing, because you have to literally paint the picture for what somebody's listening to. You can't just relate to a photo. And he made the comment. He said, and of course, the legendary Ray Charles was still alive then. He made the comment. He said, well, just picture that Ray Charles' kid is playing football, and he's listening to the radio, obviously, not being able to see his son play. Make sure that Ray can sense every move that's going on. Make him feel like he is sitting there watching that game go, and don't leave any detail out. He said, if you think it's important, say it. And that's kind of my aspect. I mean, when I call races, even if they are on TV, a lot of people will say it's somewhat of a radio broadcast, because I want to give that feel.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, buddy, I don't know if it was a Facebook post just the last day or two. You've gotten into my head. So you had said something about announcing and not saying all the time. And I'm going back watching the stuff that, like, I do these little things on Tuesday promoting our Wednesday race, and every other word is and so now I'm all messed up because of you. So
it is the hardest thing to break. And I am from East Tennessee, which means y'all and yonder and everybody over there. That was the hardest thing for me.
Not a word, Roger.
No, I learned very quickly. None of those are words that are accurate in a profession. But now and again,
I mean, Roger can't say anything because he's about to criticize me for those things too.
No, you know what? No, I absolutely love the inflections, like Virginia, Tennessee. I think it's just awesome. And down south, I love hearing like broadcasters with some southern drawl or whatever. So that's all cool, man, y'all.
And what's funny is I have taught myself not to use those, and I don't know where that sense came from not to use them. I've just kind of kicked them out. But from time to time, I'll have a really good call, and I'll go back, and I was like, did I just say y'all? Hope y'all are having a good time. And that's something, that was the hardest thing for me to get over, because my first ever radio broadcast was football. And, the first thing, it was shotgun, 2 wide receivers to the right, 2 wide receivers to the left, tight end rolls in motion. And that's how I perioded every sentence. And I'll never forget, my program director was Brian Staten. He said, listen to this clip and tell me what you hear. Well, of course, I was dumbfounded by it. I was like, well, they're in the shotgun. They got 2 wide receivers to the right, 1 to the left. He said, no. He said, listen close. And the word I said 8 times in a matter of 17 seconds. And I was like, Okay, yeah, well, okay, but that's and that's something you just have to break on your own. But I hear announcers, and I'm me being still new, and people joke all the time. Well, you've done this forever, and I'm like, well, technically, if you look at my stat sheet, no, I haven't, but I have. That by far is the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, and I mean, interviews are a whole lot harder to crack than just announcing, but it's a natural thing to say that, and that's just on a radio side of things, you say that because you don't want no dead air. So
Right.
you think if you're making some kind of noise, then that's not counting as dead air. So a lot of times the uhs get stretched out, but it's something you learn with time, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and so I had to do something similar for work, just doing some general like sales presentation kind of thing, and that was me. Like somebody had to tell me it's okay to pause, like take a break for a minute, think about what you have to say. That's natural. Saying might be natural, but it sure doesn't sound like it.
See, I had professional advice one time. Somebody said, write down everything you're going to say. And I was like, okay, write down everything you're going to say and read it after you write it down. Well, I'm telling you, I can't. If I had to read a teleprompter to do events for TV, and we joke all the time with Grassroots, if I have to read a teleprompter, it's going to be the worst broadcast ever. I said the best thing to do is tell me what you want to talk about and just let me go. Because if I have to read something word for word, I'll stumble, I'll stutter, I can't read scripts word for word. A lot of times we get commercials and stuff and promos. I will take them and I will look over most important things to me in a promo: date, time, location, what's involved. Other than that, everything else is ad-lib with me.
Yeah, it comes out more natural for sure. So I'm going to have to go back to the Flow Racing Vault and check out that race now that I know the announcer. That's kind of cool. But getting back to the iRacing stuff and your season. So you've got a few. Tell us how your league works. So it's not like our league. People go to our website, they apply, and they're basically let in. We do a bit of a precursor thing, but your league works a little bit different. So tell us about how that works.
First off, in 2022, no, 2020, yeah. It's a stressful week for me. In 2020, we decided to do this, but when I opened the door, I realized right off the bat that more people were wanting to join. And I did an entry fee, so at the end of the year, I could give away money for the points. And I tried to do the top 3 in points. So we paid a series fee. But then I got to thinking, the more people I let in, I was like, well, some of these people are going to pay the series fee and then not get to race because they're not going to make the show. So I decided to cap it at 24 cars. They paid their entry fee, those 24 cars, those are my guys for the year. Now, everybody has hooligans, as I like to call them. We had to weed out some of the hooligans in the first quarter of the season. I pulled in a couple of other guys that was on the radar or that I had raced with. And we kept those 24 guys. Well, when everything ended in 2020, the messages and everything, I think at one point I had 60 people that had reached out and said, hey, we want to be a part of this. We want to be a part of this. Well, I had a pretty good core group of guys going to be coming back. Some guys were not going to be coming back, and I knew I had to create a rookie class. So I went to work, asked a bunch of the guys that I was with, got in. I probably raced more open lobbies at the first of the year from January to the 1st of March than I've ever done before. And then the idea hit me, why don't we just do some recruiting races? But I wanted to do the recruiting races and have some fun with it. So I created the spring fall nationals. I had 3 races in the spring and there's 4 races coming up this fall. And they're just sanctioned by the Pro Late Model Dirt Series. They go by our rules. So I opened it up to everybody. They paid an entry fee, which that bought the trophy, which is going to be a belt at the end of the year. And that's kind of how I created things. And our co-friend we know, Andy, that was kind of how that happened. He just got into iRacing. He'd seen one of my Facebook posts, boom, and he was pulled in and he wanted to run the Spring Nationals. So I got, I want to say I pulled about 7 or 8 guys from that, filled up my 26 car field because I decided to get brave and do 26 week in and week out. And ever since then, I've just kind of had a list of drivers next up in line. As I say, if they've applied and I've raced with them and I've seen them on track enough, I've added them to the list. If there's somebody that's good on a mic, somebody that don't have too big of an attitude, too big of a star over their head, so to speak, I like to use them as, I call them sanctioned events. As Andy says, I try to make it as realistic as possible because, you know, if you have a big show and you have sanctioned shows, then obviously you're going to get names that are brought up. So my series, they pay a series entry fee, 26 guys, 24 guys, somewhere in between there. And that's my guys I take for the year. If we lose somebody, if somebody can't race, we bump somebody up. But I usually don't bring anybody into my big series unless I have seen them perform at least 2 times or more. That way I can get an idea of who exactly I'm dealing with, because I have opened it up to everybody. I think the first Spring Nationals race, we had a huge crowd, and you know, this is crazy. I was nervous about it, for one, because you don't know what you're going to get when you open up those doors. You don't have any idea. We ran Cedar Lake in the Spring Thaw 30 to start the year back in March. The race goes caution free if not for a pro in the race. And, you know, everybody had always said that, you know, when you get pros in there, things are always different. Well, you know, that title, to me, the pro title carries, you know, that would carry the momentum for me, thinking, okay, you know, we got some good guys in here if they hear that title. Well, I learned real quick that's not always the case. So I guess after the first race of the Spring Nationals, I kind of bit my lip and I was like, you know, I just don't know that this is going to work. But they'd already paid their entry fees, so I just bit the bullet and said, you know, we're going to follow this through. Well, the second and third race were awesome. Didn't have any issues in the second or third race. It's gained a little bit of momentum, and some of the coast to coast guys are going to try to jump on and run in the fall, and I'm excited about that because I think it'll be some fun competition. But my philosophy is with our series, my big series that we have, if you're willing to pay the entry fee, I'm going to give you a place to race on Wednesday nights. I don't like the fact of somebody paying and not getting the opportunity to run on a Wednesday night, because, you know, if we're going to run 40 or 50 cars and only take 24 to the show, then I'm going to be one of the ones setting out, because I'm still one of the ones that are way down there. And my problem is I don't get the track time everybody else gets. That's what me and Andy talk about. Yep. You've got some of these guys that turn thousands of laps in a week, and I'm like, you know, I've got my Wednesday night show, my 30-minute hot laps is about what I'm going to get for the week. So our philosophy is just try to get 24 guys that'll put on a show and something worth watching for the fans out there.
Now, are you guys open or fixed setup?
Fixed setup.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if some of our guys are interested in you know, trying to get hooked up eventually with you, they would be looking for this fall show. Is that, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have our Fall Nationals. It'll kick back up. It's a continuum of the Spring Nationals, so there is already a point standings going right now. 4 races: Fairbury, USA, Volusia, and I want to say Lanier. 1 in October, I think October 3rd, 2 in November, and then 1 in December. And those are just sanctioned events. I mean, they go by our rules. Pretty much everything is the same in the Spring and Fall Nationals that they are in our tour. So we get to kind of...
Basically, they're probation races.
Pretty much. They're recruiting races, but I don't like using the word recruiting. No. I say that because, you know, not everybody in there is going to get, you know, not everybody in there is going to get the call. And with me only having 24 to 26 slots, you know, it kind of fades away. And, you know, the thing is, and you guys will see this in your leagues, I'm not looking for the person that goes out and leads every lap and wins every race. Sometimes that's not the person you want racing. I'm looking for that guy that shows up, that runs 5th or 6th, that's there every week, is good on the mic, is courteous if the leaders are coming around to lap. I'm looking for that guy that's just good. Not necessarily the best driver or the best personality, but just somebody that wants to be there, wants to show up week in and week out. Because I mean, I have given some spots to some guys, and you don't know if you're going to see them from week to week or not. And I hate that because it doesn't let some of the guys in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. We ask this every show. Your greatest iRacing memory or moment?
Greatest iRacing? Well, I can actually tell you this one pretty quick. Last year, me being new to iRacing, the first 6 races of the year were awful. I may have actually had a better year last year than what I've had so far this year, but I've had some wheel issues this year, some interesting wheel issues, to say that. But I had practiced, I want to say I had a couple of extra days off last year when we had our Firecracker 100 at Lernerville. And I practiced a lot that week, and I had looked at the times, and I was like, I'm not far off from where these guys were practicing most of the week. Went out, I want to say I finished second in the heat race, which got me a really good starting spot. And 100-lap race, best finish of the year was, I want to say my best finish of the year coming into that was 12th or 13th. I ran in the top 4 the entire race until about 20 laps to go, and got caught up in a lap traffic deal where the lap cars were running 3 wide in front of the leader. The leader squeaked through, second place squeaked through, third place went through, and when I tried to follow them, well, the gap closed up. So my iRacing highlight, and most of the guys in my series will tell you this, would be Lernerville last year when I could be in contention, and how good it felt to just simply see the leaders and stay with them for 75 of the 100 laps.
I think Roger and I can both relate to that too, because we run that same way. So I'm very excited to ask my question that I ask all of our guests, because at this point it has no potential to cause blowback in our league, so it's wonderful. So what I always ask our guests is, who is your biggest rival in your league?
Biggest rival for me, or just biggest rival in general?
For you. So, and it doesn't have to be a hooligan, it can be, but just maybe somebody you find yourself on the track around frequently.
Well, you both are going to laugh at this. I would say if it's this year, it's Andy. I feel like week in and week out, that 75 is either on my door panel or on my passenger side. I know we joked at Bristol, we raced for 20 laps. We were right there side by side. Lernerville, every time I made a move, I seen the blue coming out of the corner of my eye. So I would say Andy this year. I don't know that it's really a rivalry, but we're not that far away in points from each other. But I feel like week in and week out, I see Cool Ray in the corner of my eye every time I glance over. So I would say Andy's up there on that list.
There you go.
Well, that's awesome, man. So, it's been great having you on, and we really, really look forward to, some shared events going forward. Love what you're doing with your league, and, it's, like I say, your guys were great when they came out, and look forward to doing more of these joint efforts. And again, I think our charity event, I talked to, it was either you or Andy, we've moved it. I think it's in available dates for you guys. So, that's open to everybody, and hopefully you guys will come out. It's for a great cause, for Brody Sim. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but just a young kid that got injured very severely in a 305 accident. So anyways, look forward to having you guys out again, and seeing you on the track. And I got to go back in the vault now and go back and watch that race that your first time out this year.
Yeah, don't be too hard on me. Just keep that in mind. That is my very first time being behind the mic. So, but that's another thing. I know we've talked behind the scenes, and not going to throw out everything just yet. But the opportunity to do a charity race. I know me and Andy have talked kind of on our side of things. I love the fact that we could possibly come together and do some good. The fact that that door is open to take this kind of pedestal, and this isn't the biggest pedestal in the world, but anytime you can shine the light on a good cause and make a valiant effort for something good, then I think the world's going to be a better place for it. And the fact that we actually could race and be competitive, but help somebody or help a charity in one way or another, to me is one of the coolest things in the world. And for my guys, my series, to be able to be a part of something like that, and going down the road next year, being able to maybe help out a charity, man, my door is always going to be open to somebody that wants to try to do something good like that. And I think with the drivers that we're going to have on the racetrack, especially for next year, it'll be a group of guys you guys would also be proud of that would want to help out as well.
Well, we do. Part of that charity race is Pro Late Models, so you guys would be very, very comfortable in that for sure. So
as long as we're not racing at Kokomo, I might actually be able to be competitive.
Kokomo. I guarantee that, buddy. I guarantee that. We just came off of Kokomo, so the wounds are still healing.
Well, that's where we go tomorrow night, so I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah. Have fun, and make sure on the cautions everybody finds their spot real fast, because it gets crazy.
Yeah.
So
before we let you go, tell us where we can check out the Pro Late Model Dirt Series.
Facebook and Instagram, just simply type in Pro Late Model Dirt Series, PLM Dirt Series. You can type it that way. The Facebook by far is the best way to go. Instagram still, Instagram's still a mystery to me, but yep. I found a way to co-post, let's put it that way. So that's helped me a lot as far as going both ways. But just simply the Facebook page, the Instagram, that's the best way. And as far as events and stuff, we post stuff all the time. Information on the Fall Nationals. You can simply send a message. Folks are interested, just send a message to us. We'll get you the information about getting signed up. And the dates and everything is all on the page. All you have to do is click on events and scroll down, and you'll see Fall Nationals. And at the end of the year, we have another race that's open to everybody, is our Frostbuster 100. It's December the 29th. Last year, had a couple of folks come on board, made it a 200 to win. This year, it's a 400 to win event on December the 29th. So that's open also to everybody as well. So
awesome. Well, thanks, buddy. I think we're going to do some big things together. We appreciate you coming on, and I think we're going to have you back here at some point too.
Sounds like a good plan. I appreciate you guys for having me.
And good luck in Charlotte, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Sounds exciting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
Take care.
That was a cool conversation with Cody. I think from talking to some of our other broadcasters, I know they put a lot of time and effort into it, but Cody really got into a lot of the detail about what he does, and actually some of the differences between him and other announcers and what he's been learning. And I don't know that I realized how much detail and how much time prior to the race that those guys need to get prepared. It's pretty crazy.
Well, and it's like he was talking about the guy from Flow, with the ASCS, and he got there when what he thought was early, and this other guy's already set up and stuff. It just reminds you of that the difference between the top level and maybe the middle level. I remember a Stanley Cup final. I think it was the first one. We're going back a bit, with the Oilers lost to the Islanders. I think it was when the Islanders won 4 in a row, and it really hit Gretzky and those guys that how much harder the Islanders were working, that you just don't show up and come to play. Not that Gretzky ever did just that, but it's you get to the top, and they just see the real commitment from people, and it's the same thing here, where people come prepared, and that's why they're at the top of the game, and do a great job, because they've done their homework.
Yeah, and Cody seems like he's well on his way.
Yeah, great guy. Great. I've enjoyed working with him, and I really look forward to this relationship. Going down the road. I think we've hit on something, and it's great that their drivers came in and drove great, but our drivers did great as well, and there was it didn't seem to be any animosity at all. So. Probably less animosity than a normal week of racing in our league. So,
well, that's kind of what Cody said that too about his guys. So everybody's on their best behavior. Yeah.
So hey, we gotta mention too, a big shout out to the Renegades on Monday night. We've had some difficult races, and at Kokomo they went flag to flag, and we will have a draw. It will be. I thought about announcing it on the podcast, but I'll probably do it Sunday. I might wait till Sunday, And I still got to figure out if I'm going to actually do the, do people really want to see me do the 5 rounds and stuff, or do they just want to say who won? I'm not sure. I try to put some drama in it, but maybe it's driving people nuts. But
I like to do it so I can heckle you about something in the background of your video. That's what I typically do.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, we'll have a draw that it's a $10 iRacing credit. Steven Spees and Gambler Motorsports have donated, and that's still out there. If we can get another race going flag to flag, or even just one caution, it's a $5 iRacing credit. So we'll have a draw for that. That's very cool. By now, we have completed the Mike Westbrook Memorial and the big payouts. So we'll see how that goes. The interesting thing there is we're trialing 13 incidents. We've reduced it to 13 incidents. I think the warning comes on at 8. So see if that helps improve things, because if it was successful, we may start implementing that elsewhere. We'll see how that went.
Yeah,
but we don't know right now because it's a Tuesday.
So I'm asking a question that I maybe I shouldn't either. But does the warning isn't that a penalty? Like you have to drive through the pits or something?
I don't know. You know what? I better check that out, because what I wanted to do is set up a race, and I got to get my hair cut tomorrow, so I can't race the afternoon race, to see how that warning works, because we've never turned it on. I thought it would just be iRacing coming on saying, hey, you've hit 8 incidents.
I know in the endurance racing, the way it works is there's a warning at one point, and the warning is not a kick, but it's actually a warning, and you have to do like a drive-through or something like that.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what the warning is.
I thought that I'll have to check with John Hine and a few guys then.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything goes okay on Wednesday. But I know with those other big races, I think they set a threshold of like 50 or 20 incident points, and you got to do like a drive-through, and then every 20 after that or something like that. So it's just a cumulative thing where they keep penalizing you.
Right.
So I think the other one is just I'm going to have to do some reading on it tonight, because I thought it was just a warning to say, hey, you're liable to go over very soon. So
right. Well, anyway. And so one thing with this new incident limit, if it works well, we're very likely to keep using it. So if we do, I want to reiterate, and our admins will tell you too, especially for the guys that don't catch this, but contact under the caution is obviously something we try to avoid all the time. But with this incident limit, it's going to be even more important that that everybody's careful under caution, because with the limit coming down, which it's at this point it's going to need to make some adjustments to what we've been seeing, it's going to be not okay. It's less acceptable than it's ever been to bump people under caution. Things happen, right? It's going to happen. Somebody's going to bump you accidentally. You might not get the smoothest start, and somebody gets you. That we understand it's going to happen. Don't go protesting that, but they are technically protestable offenses. We'd ask you unless it's more than one, then not to bother. And just as a reminder too, this kind of being the bad guy here, but as the protesting driver, there's no recourse really to be had. So anytime somebody gets a heat EOL or a feature EOL, that's the results of a protest. We can't give you points back or anything like that. So unfortunately, that whatever comes of that contact is permanent. But we do ask that you do that, because the protests help us, identify what's going on and kind of clean things up that way too. So if you do run into a situation where somebody, and even if the IL limit doesn't, or the incident limit doesn't remain as low as it's going to be for the next week or so, you're free to protest that. Again, just be discriminate about how you're using that system.
Yeah, for sure. And I know some guys have, they've contacted us because, iRacing penalized them somehow, and they want us to give them their points back or whatever. We just can't do that. So an example of that, though, was last night for me, Kokomo. I know Gary Taylor, same thing happened in the Raiders division. There's a glitch somewhere in Kokomo, and I don't know if it's where the pace truck comes out, but it said to follow your dad, right? It says stay behind, let 70 by, which is Mike Cramner, and Mike's in front of me, and he's in, I'm following him maybe like 50 feet behind him, and it's saying let him by, let him by. I don't know what's going on here. And anyways, I ended up getting a black flag, which I wasn't happy about, and ended up getting DQ'd. And I don't think I did anything wrong, but there's no recourse. I have to accept that, and that's guys have to understand. There's enough going on with the review and reviewing that we can't go back to a race and try to figure out, should he have finished 7th or 9th?
Right.
It's just, it ain't going to happen. It's just accept it. I had to accept it. Believe me, I was going to say I rage quit, but I was already DQ'd. So I guess I didn't quit. I just
iRacing took care of that for you.
Yeah. So I was not a happy camper. Let me tell you, probably unhappier than most people, other people that complain. So it is what it is, and it's iRacing. Take it up with iRacing. That's my recourse is to think, fix Kokomo, but I'm not really sure what I got to tell them to fix. So
yeah,
it's something to do with where that pace truck comes out.
I think you're right, and I think it sounds like it might have been trying to put you a lap down and wanted you to let the whole field come by. Which at Kokomo, I don't even know if you'd have had time. You'd have had to throw the thing in reverse because the pace laps are so daggone short. But
the same thing happened to Gary, but he didn't get DQ'd. So is it the same thing? I don't know. But anyways, enough about that. But the racing's been getting a lot better, and we'll be more careful next season to start out, like Knoxville or somewhere like that for the first couple of weeks. We won't put any of the bull rings on the first few weeks, and cause more chaos than we need, I guess.
Yeah.
And tip of the hat to Bob the Good. He was the only guy in Rebels with a dial low enough to transfer to the Renegades. So good on him.
Yeah, I saw that too. How did he do in Renegades? I didn't see where he finished.
He finished near the back, but Bob's a super courteous driver and didn't want to cause issues, and I think he was happy just to be in the feature. And I think he finished 20th or 21st, something like that. But,
hey, yes, made the feature,
made the feature, man. And he's he improves every week. He's improving. Well, I know because he's beating me. So it's and I want to just give a shout out to Bruce Hilton, Greg Boydell, and Dean Reynolds. We had our retreads race today. We were 305s at Knoxville, and the four of us traded at least 20 laps. Like we were, you'd be anywhere between first and fourth. It was just a mix-up. Slide jobs galore. Nobody made one contact. It was the way iRacing should be, and it was just probably one of the highlights of my racing career. That was so much fun to race in. So shout out to the old boys.
So I got to give some shout outs too. We've got our new members for the week: Connor Hughes, Nick Cohen, Trey Eldridge, and Ken Robinson. Am I reading that right? Ken Robinson. Yep. So those are our 4 new members for this past week. So again, like I said last week, if you're running those guys on the track, make sure you give them a hello and a little help if they need it. And welcome to the league, guys. So we hope you find plenty of divisions to run because we know they're out there.
Yeah, and kudos to those guys. They all gave you names you could pronounce this week.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There actually may be one that I messed up and I just made it sound good, but we're just going to run with it anyway. So in the meantime, I think we should go over and finish up with Connor's Corner. He had a pretty good week, so we'll see what he has to say and dive into some of the intricacies of Flamborough Speedway.
Did he roll it onto the trailer at the end of the night? That's the big question.
That's what matters in the end of the day, I think. So we appreciate you guys watching. Again, episode 40. We've been here, been doing this for quite a while, and I appreciate everybody tuning in each week. I'm starting to see the numbers are climbing up a little bit on the audio-only options between Spotify and Apple and all that, so that's pretty cool. So make sure you share this out if anybody, your iRacing friends, would be interested. Let's pump some views out and some listens, I guess. I don't know all the terminology at this point, but we appreciate the viewership every week, and we'll see you back here again next week.
Take care, everybody. Drive safe.
So we're back. It's another edition of Connor's Corner. I understand Connor raced at Flamborough again last week, so we're here to do our regular check-in. So overall, how things go?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was another learning experience, another weekend of doing 50 laps and then some in practice. But every lap I was learning, which is a great thing.
So as we get into that, how was your prep for the race going into the? It was obviously a little bit different. We talked to you a little bit about that last week, but how did it vary after the week prior and having to repair the car?
Well, it's kind of funny when we went in to the shop Wednesday. We went to go scale the car and get it set up and everything, and then we realized that in the right front there was a few broken parts. We sheared a nut and bolt right out of it. So we ended up taking the right front apart, and we went there to actually get it ready and not take crap apart, but we ended up having to do some more work Saturday afternoon on to get the right front put back together before my dad headed down to Merrittville. But we were able to get to the track at 3 o'clock, which is awesome, so we're not rushing into anything. It's always good when you go into a track early.
Yeah, well, because the previous week you were rolling in, and actually you said you missed practice, right?
Yeah, we were just trying to get everything set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. What time did you get to the track? But you already answered that, so that's great. That's excellent.
So having the practice time, do you feel like that made a difference this time? What's it? Is it just getting settled in a little bit easier then?
It definitely did. We get 2 practice sessions, and it's funny enough, we only did 1, and I'll get into that in a second. But it was just every lap I'm getting trust in the car again and getting comfortable again. And we made some changes after the first one. I was a bit loose on entry. So, and that could have been just from the brakes gripping a bit different and that actually rotating the car. But in our second session, we were getting ready to go out, and I guess someone had a drain plug come on loose or fall completely out of the rear end, so they were leaking oil and everything all over the track, and I didn't feel like being the first car out on a kitty litter track and stuff, so I just said, you know what, we'll just get ready for the feature instead.
So yeah, you're thinking, buddy.
So obviously come feature time, you said you ran 50 laps. Is it a 50-lap feature, or is this another double like before?
2 25-lap features.
Yeah, so how did those go? And I'm going to ask you a question now just because I'm curious and want to know the answer now. And it's because I just asked Cody the same question a few minutes ago. Do you have a rival developing now? Is there like somebody you're like seeing on the track all the time?
No, not really. They're really fast in that division actually, and it's a struggle to keep up with the pack. There are a lot of veterans in that. There's one kid that's my age, but everyone else is like 30 and above, and it's just tough to keep up, but I'm learning. So there is not a rival.
Okay. Well, so anyway, so tell us how your first feature went, or Roger, go ahead.
Yep. But where'd you start in the first?
14 cars, so I would have started 14th. So
is that by choice?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started 14th, and I think I was 10th, 11th. A few cars wrecked, but again, it was just gaining experience.
Yep, seat time.
Exactly. And
So,
then our second.
Are you guys running into, like, do you have a lot of cautions, or are you basically doing 25 laps flat out, or are you getting 2 or 3 in like we do some nights?
Some nights there are where we'll get a bunch of cautions, but we don't end under caution.
Right.
So no matter how many green white checkers we'll have, unless there is a caution when you come out and throw in the white, sometimes we will technically under yellow, but some nights it's crash fest, some nights it's not. So I guess it's like a coast to coast night.
Yeah, there you go.
So speaking of coast to coast, is it like caution laps count or caution laps don't count?
Caution laps don't count.
Caution laps don't count. And how many incidents do you get? Oh, down there, right.
Oh.
Until you put it in the wall hard enough and you can't go.
You get 1 incident.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
And the thing, I'm going to jump in, the thing that sucks about open wheel is when you hit the wall,
Something's broke.
It's going to take a while to fix too. So you're running 10 laps under caution, 15 sometimes, depending on how bad it is. Like, a guy did some damage to the right front. He was wedged up against the wall, and it just takes a bit because you have to get everyone out there. And so even under caution laps, it's hot in a car. You don't have...
I was going to ask that. Like, so what's going through your mind during those caution laps? What are you thinking about? And is there any two-way radios at all, or is it just one way from the official and that's it?
We can have two ways. A lot of guys do run two ways. My first race, I did have a two-way radio, but this year I just wanted to get comfortable with the one-way. So I personally can't talk to anyone, but a lot of guys in the series do. So under caution, some days I'll be looking around to see where my dad is or my crew chief or who's in the stands, where my mom and pop are. And then some nights
you're scoping for babes. Don't lie.
No. Some nights I'll be focusing in and seeing where I could do better, what I did wrong, and what lap is it, what do I need to do better to push myself at the end here.
So rewind,
So,
and you said
I
you
gotta-
finished 10th in the first one?
Yeah, and then
Okay. I'll come back to that in a minute.
all right.
So then you were saying last week that typically the second feature you reverse the order, starting order.
Yes.
But you just ask for an EOL all the time. Is that what
Yeah, so
No,
as long
that's
as you
a smart thing to do.
as long as you stay on the lead lap, it inverts. So I stayed on the lead lap in the first race, so I would have been on pole, and I don't feel like being an anchor.
Too much pressure. Yeah. Too
Yeah.
much pressure.
Exactly.
So to the second feature, how'd you do?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Yeah.
We did pretty good. I stayed with the pack for a good amount of laps, and I was really tight. So in a pavement car, when you're on the brakes and you're turning, it doesn't help. The car plows.
Right.
And lap after lap, I was like, it's getting worse. And then I let my foot off the brake, and it turned perfectly, and I was rolling the center. I was like, I think I know what I have to do. So I ended up actually taking my foot off the brake. So when you go into the corner, that's where your braking is. When you start to turn, you let off the brake. So
Right.
so it rotates, and that was my problem. It was a rookie thing. I got to get slowed down for the corner, and I got to keep slowing down. No, I do my braking, and then I turn in, and I gained a few tenths actually on my fastest lap, so that was good. But
Awesome.
think we finished 9th, maybe 10th again.
So, that said, last week during Connor's Corner, I asked you where you were going to finish, and you said, I feel like we got a top 10 coming, and so that's 2. So you called it. So I'm going to ask you again. I don't know when your next race is, so you have to tell us that too. But I'm going to ask you again.
All right, it's the 24th.
Okay. So you got a week to figure out how to gain some more positions.
Yeah, we should have a good amount of car counts with 2 weeks off. So, if I get another top 10, I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
Top 10 again.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
So how much will you take an EOL all season, or will you, when you get a little more confident, will you start taking?
If I get confident and faster, I won't take an EOL. It depends. If I'm starting on the pole, I'll take I'll scratch EOL. But if I'm starting 10th and there's 15 cars, I'll stay in 10th.
Right.
It sounds like to me that lesson you picked up about letting off the pedal is probably one of the more valuable since you started the season. Like that's probably one of the things that's made the most difference, if I had to guess, based on what you're saying.
Oh, 100%. Because when I came in, I said to my crew chief, I said my last lap was the fastest lap. He's like, oh, I didn't have a time. So on our way home, I went on Race Monitor, and I was like, guess what lap was my fastest? He said, I don't know, your last, because you said it confident. I said, yeah, by like 2 or 3 tenths, it was quicker.
That's cool.
And I also
That's
did get loose,
encouraging.
so it would have been quicker. But
So that's encouraging going into your next race. That you found some speed.
Yep.
Oh, and
Right at the last minute. So
Something to build on.
you'll find it.
exactly.
So I'm curious though. This whole two-way radio thing. This has got me going. Man, if I had a chance to be talking to my crew chief I'd want that chance to be, where I could ask questions. Is it a dollar and cents thing, or is it just not having access to the equipment, or like I just, if I had a chance to, well, just like iRacing, you're talking to your spotter and stuff, you can have a conversation, even if it's just to calm you down at times.
Yeah, exactly. My first race I did use a spotter, and he was actually a very talented pro late driver, which helped me a lot. So if I do have a spotter, I'll try and get a driver that drives and races as a spotter, because he knows what he'd want. So it kind of helps when we'll either chat before and we'll kind of have a game plan on what to go about, but it has its pros and cons with the two-way instead of a one-way, obviously, as you can't talk. And my dad would never let me talk under green. That was the one thing when I ran the two-way. He said, don't talk under green. If you do, I'll smack you. Because he doesn't want me to lose focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
And I do think personally, I think it's probably, there's a slight difference between iRacing where, Roger, when you and I are spotting for one another, we got camera angles we can utilize and stuff. And when you're at the actual track, your crew chief standing on top of the hauler or whatever, he's not seeing a whole lot that you're not seeing. So it might be there's diminishing returns at the actual track.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dirt track when your guys are at the fence and just screaming at you to either try something new or
Right.
try and give you signals. But it sucks. And it also doesn't. But your crew chief can only see so much, and
Right.
it's kind of tough.
It's kind of like he's using TV3.
Or I was gonna say it's kind of like Roger to be spotting for you, but whatever. We can go with TV3 too. That's fine. Yeah.
The reference to that was I spotted for quite a few races from TV3 before guys got ticked and told me, use the far chase. I saw a lot more that way, that's for sure.
So, Connor, you're back at Flamborough on July 24th, right?
Yeah. Yes, July 24th.
Any chance this one's televised or streamed anywhere?
It is broadcasted, but it's not live. They usually post it a day after.
Okay.
Which kind of sucks.
Well, that's better than nothing.
Exactly. I don't know when G-Force is going to be there again, so
Okay.
we'll have to wait.
So
technically,
yeah,
technically G-Force is going to be there next week, actually, for the APC race, but I will not be racing.
Right. I was going to ask you that, but that you answered that. I was wondering about that APC, if that was shutting you guys down or not. So, I got to get my button gear and come out and see it. So, we got to get out there and get some cheering squad. So when you're doing those cautions, you can look. Oh, there's Roger with 44.
I still remember what you said, 2 weeks ago, and I haven't got it out of my head, sadly.
That's pretty good. All right, buddy. Well,
that's awesome.
We'll wish you good luck. I'm calling P8 in one of your next features or better. So
I'll try and get that. For
you.
you.
You need that. You need to do that for the Pitside podcast, if nothing else. It's Connor's Corner. We're gonna have to get you a Connor's Corner logo to put on your car.
We will.
Yeah.
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 Right.
So I'm with Connor. Or I'm with Russ with P8. I think P8 is an achievable goal and would be continual improvement. So go get them, buddy.
I will. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
You too, Connor.
Yeah. You too.